Good afternoon, good evening. I hope you've had a good day. It's been a funny old day out there. Bit of cloud, threatened with rain, and then sunshine. Not really sure whether to put the washing out at all. It's been one of those days where you can't predict what the weather's going to do. Well, we're on to the book of Judges today. The verse which supplies the lens, if you like, for reading the whole book is the last one at the end of chapter 21 of the book of Judges. Verse 25. In those days there was no king in Israel, and all the people did what was right in their own eyes. It kind of points forward to what's coming next, that Israel will be given kings, and we'll find out more about those in the books of Samuel and Kings after we've looked at Ruth tomorrow. But what about this book of Judges? What we see again and again is the same cycle going round and round and round. The people do what they think is right. The trouble is, it's not right at all. God gives warnings, they carry on and don't listen, so punishment comes. When the punishment comes, they cry out for deliverance, and a deliverer is sent in the form of a person. Peace reigns for a while, but then the cycle goes round again. The people do what's right in their own eyes, God warns them and then eventually punishes them. They cry out for a deliverer, and a deliverer comes in another judge. Some of the most famous stories from the Old Testament are in the book of Judges. We read about Deborah, and we read about Gideon, and we read about Samson. But the story is the same. Nevertheless, despite their leadership, the people of Israel do what's right in their own eyes, get it wrong, God warns, God punishes, they cry out for deliverance, and a deliverer comes. They need something else. They need a different kind of leadership. It's not working. Maybe the answer lies in a king. Well, we'll see that that doesn't work too well either. Well, not an earthly king. Maybe it's a different kind of kingship they need. Maybe that kingship was on offer all the way through. But that's something we'll go on to explore as we trace our journey through the Old Testament. There are two things that fascinate me, though, about the book of Judges. One is, as this cycle goes round and round and round, how it's also relevant to Israel in its later history, when it does what it thinks is right and it all goes wrong, and they cry out for a deliverer even when they're in exile. And what does God do? Well, God heeds their prayers and gives them a deliverer. God is a God who brings us back, who interrupts the story, the consequences of what we've done, and brings something new. In the book of Judges, it's a deliverer. For the people who are in exile, it's a return from exile back into the promised land. That's the first thing that strikes me about the book of Judges, how God gives deliverance, how he interrupts the story and brings something new. The other thing is that there's no spin in the book of Judges. Despite it going round and round in this cycle, there's no spin when it comes to these leaders. We get them, warts and all. Gideon and the way in which he compromises his devotion to God. Samson and Delilah, well, you know that story well enough. There's no spin on these leaders. And that's one of the features that we'll see as we go through to track the kings also. There's no spin about these people. Their leadership is portrayed warts and all. It's quite a refreshing way of considering leadership when we're all too used to putting leaders on pedestals and then perhaps rejoicing when they do what we expect them to do and fall from grace. Well, in the book of Judges, we get a different kind of view of leadership. No spin, leaders, warts and all. People of goodness as well as imperfection. There's perhaps something refreshing there in terms of how we understand leadership and perhaps what we should expect from our leaders as we seek rightly to get things right, but also recognizing that they, like us, are human as well. Well, the book of Judges, in all of this cycle of getting it wrong and God making a way to get it right, perhaps there's much to reflect on, not just for history, but also for the nation of Israel as it goes forward. And perhaps also as we consider what it means to be led by others and what it means to look to God for real leadership, for real direction. For it's only there that we'll find perfection. The book of Judges, then, all about cycles, but not a hint of spin.